Hello friends and welcome to BISPsolutions.com. My name is Amit and today I'm going to show you how to create enterprise planning and budgeting cloud service application. We would enable workforce planning module. So let's get started. It would be done in 3 steps and there are 2 videos I'm going to prepare on this. In first step, we would create application followed by enable workforce planning business process and configure workspace. If you are new to planning and budgeting cloud service or planning, I would recommend you to go through my foundation video about Oracle Hyperion Planning and PBCS. So step first, you log into your cloud instance, the credential you get from Oracle once you procure the license, and depends upon the license you have taken, you find the screen similar to the one I have shown it to you. In my case, I'm using planning and budgeting cloud instance. I have FCCS and tax reporting. We start creating PBCS application. This is enterprise application. You can define any name. I would prefer to use PBCS, and this is sample workforce application. Because in this sample application, I'm going to load data and metadata, and therefore I use this name. And you define detail about your application. So I assume I'm going to maintain 4 years of data, 2 year historical, 1 year current, and 1 year future data, and therefore I use 2015 2018. Your starting month continue to be January. You can define June or April for fiscal year as well, and your weekly distribution is even distribution. It is multi-currency application, and I like to continue to use the same name for BSO cube, input cube which is plan 1, and reporting cube is EPBCS. This is summary of your application design. If you could click on create, it takes few seconds to create the application, and once application got created, we would enable the workforce planning module. So wait for a few minutes to get this activity be completed. Perfect. So the application got created. You can see the application instance available. The next step, we would configure workforce planning. Therefore you go to application configuration module, and there are all available application framework available, including workforce planning, capital expense, project financial planning, project planning, and strategic modeling is recently added. I use workforce planning, and this is a best practice, so automatically inherit all the required dimension and features based upon your selection. So in this case I use granularity as employee and job. I like to maintain all kind of expenses, benefit, taxes, additional earning like bonus, and non-compensation expenses as well. Headcount planning, I want headcount to be calculated based on employee demographic, and workforce planning or workforce management to be done for new employees or new hire, terminate, new termination and transfer. This also include severance, so the employee who resign and serve the notice period. The bottom screen shows the custom dimension. I like to continue the same custom dimension, which consists of your skill set, components, employee job code, age band, and gender. When you find everything good, you can click on enable. Now this takes few seconds to enable this feature. Once it is done, we are going to, I'll show you the predefined or the inherited features you receive, so the set of dimension and data form. We would load the metadata followed by this approach, and then you set the variable value and define configuration, different assumptions. So let's wait for this process to be completed. Alright, so it got enable. It is suggesting you to log off and log in to see the changes. So I'm going to log off and log in again. You would find a workforce module appear in your desktop. So log in again, and what you see, there's a workforce module available. So in addition to this, you find the predefined configuration set of dimensions are available. Under your dimension tag, you see there are set of dimensions including your account, age, band, component, salary. Depends upon what you selected. We have selected employee, job. So these all dimension got added. And in addition to this, there are some predefined data form are also got added over here. Although you cannot access them now, you need to add the dimension, set variable, and define other configuration steps. So the next step, once your application got configured, I'm going to load metadata. So in order to load metadata, go to application, configuration module, select workforce, and you have a set of dimensions. So I'm going to load this dimension, and I already have this metadata file exist. These are comma separator files I prepared. In a subsequent session, I show you how to create metadata files. So in order to practice workforce planning, let's first configure our entire application. So click on employee, point to your metadata file and upload it. I would recommend you to validate and import. So when you import, you can refresh right away or you can defer it. I want to defer it. I would refresh my database later on. Once import done successfully, a green flag appears over here. In addition to this, you find that the job got created, import database and validate. You would continue to do the same for other dimensions. So I import employees. Now let's import uh, entity, job, entity, validate and import. Next you import job. So entity got imported. Union code, point to your data file. Validate and import. And the final one is your component. So we are done so far. Union code, employee entity. Let's import job and component. Finally, import. Behind each import, there's one job got created. You can schedule this and automate this activity as well. In a subsequent session, I show you how to do this. Component, point your component file and import. Your all import done. You could refresh your database right away, or you can refresh through property application property option. So I invoke refresh. This would have submitted a job. Once your refresh is done, the next step, I am going to set application scenario planning and budgeting range option. So you go to scenario, planning and budgeting, planning and forecasting preparation, and then I like to define the plan start year and end year. So in this application, I assume My current fiscal year is FY15. You can select 16 or 17, and the period is continued to be January, but plan start year would be next fiscal year for 3 years. Okay, you save it. This parameter setting you do based on your project requirement. In this sample application, I'm using these parameters because my data file is based upon this. The next step, you're going to set the variable. So in order to set the variable, you go to home page, tools, and set variable. So before setting up variable, you cannot actually open data form, neither you can run business rule. So in my application, the currency is USD. Entity, I assume sales US. You can see the list of entities from your hierarchy structure because this is the entity structure we uploaded. Therefore, you can see them. The reporting currency, base currency is same. And in this case, I'm going to use scenario as plan and working version. So this is working version, and here I select FY16. These parameter setting you would do according to your project requirement. So your business rule data form would be selecting using these user variable when you open them. The next activity is we'll set the assumptions. So I start with assumptions, salary grade assumption, and workforce assumption. In a subsequent session, I'll show you the remaining assumptions. So you go to planning application, once again select configuration and open your salary assumption, salary grade, and workforce assumption. There are two assumptions we are going to talk about. So in salary grade, I define what are different grades and what is their salary basis. So I've chosen some sample values, like there are actually there are 10 grades we have in this application, and I've chosen a couple of them for the sake of testing. Grade 1, grade 2 are hourly basis, 3 and 4 are annual, and number of hours for grade 1 and grade 2 for different fiscal year. Right, so you put this value based upon your project requirement. Let's put this value into a data form. So first one is in your hourly. You define for FY 16, 17 and 18, and similarly you give for others. First one was hourly, second one I would define annually. So annually, or what is your rate, you can select the value from here, 68,000, and so on. In a similar fashion, you define assumption for salary grades. Once you are done, you can save this value. The second assumption we are going to define in this practice is workforce assumptions. In a similar fashion, we define various assumptions before you actually roll out your workforce planning application. So what is your hourly rate? Hour per day, number of hours, sorry. So we define number of hours are 8, per week 40, and similarly you can define per month. So you can round it off, it is actually 21.67, you can round it off 22. So the other calculation of your business rules would be based upon these assumptions, and finally you save it. So that's it for this part of this workforce planning application configuration. Do watch my second part where I talk about how to set up more assumptions and I execute different business rules. So should you have any question, please feel free to write to bispsolutions.com. Thank you.